Hey, what's up you guys, it's Dorothy and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, comment down below what you want to see in the future, click that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on my post notifications. That way you guys get notified every single time I upload a video. In today's video, we are going to go into chapter 46 of As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. Like I've said in previous videos, we are almost done with this book and I am doing my best to get all of this content out to you guys. So let's get right into this video. This video may contain sensitive topics and foul language. If you do not wish to continue, please click off of the video now. You have been warned. Chapter 46. It started with a phone call. Hi Pip, it's Detective Hawkins here. I wonder if you have time to come down to the station today for a little chat. Sure, Pip told him. What's this about? It's about the podcast trailer you posted a couple days ago about the Jason Bell case. I have a few questions for you, that's all. It's a voluntary interview. She pretended to think about it. Okay, I can be there in an hour. The hour was gone now and here she was standing outside the bad place, the graying building of Fairview's police station. A gun going off in her heart. In her hands slick with sweat and Stanley's blood, Pip locked her car and wiped her red hands off on her jeans. She called Ravi to tell him where she was going. He hadn't said much other than one word, fuck, over and over again, but Pip told him it was okay not to panic. This was to be expected. She was indirectly involved in the case, either through her interview with Jackie or through her phone call to Max's lawyer that night. That's all this would be about, and Pip knew exactly how to play her part. She was on the outskirts of this murder, that's all. A peripheral player. Hawkins wanted information from her, as she wanted some from him in return. This could be it, the answer to the question she couldn't shake, the lurking undertow to every waking thought. The moment Pip learned whether they'd managed to pull it off or not, whether their time of death trick had worked. It had. If it had, she was free, she survived. She was never there, and she hadn't killed Jason Bell. If it hadn't worked, well, not worth thinking about that quite yet. She locked the trailing thought in her dark place at the back of her mind and walked through the sliding automatic doors. Hello, Pip, Eliza. The detention officer gave her a stained smile from behind the front desk. It's all go here, I'm afraid, she said, her hands fidgeting a pile of papers. Detective Hawkins called me, asked me to come in for a chat, Pip replied, digging her hands into her back pockets so Eliza couldn't see. They shook. Calm down. Need to calm down. She could crumble inside, but she couldn't let it show. Oh, right, Eliza stepped back. I'll just go get him. You're here then. I'll just go tell him you're here then. Pip waited. She watched as an officer she knew, Soria, hurried through the reception, stopping only briefly to swap a quick hellos and how are yous. Pip wasn't covered in blood this time, not the kind you could see anyway. As Soria walked through the locked door to the back, someone else came through from the other way. Detective Hawkins, his limp hair pushed back, his face paler than usual, grayer, and though he'd spent too much time in this building and its color was leaching into him, claiming him. He can't have slept much since Jason's body was found. Hi, Pip. He beckoned her over and she followed. Down the same corridor from the bad place to the worst place, treading in her own out-of-time footsteps again, but this Pip. She was the one in control, not the scared girl who just seen death for the first time, and she thought she might be following Hawkins now into interview room 3, but really he was following her. Please have a seat. Hawkins gestured to her chair, taking his own. There was an open box on the floor beside him, a pile of files inside, a tape recorder waiting for them on the metal table. Pip sat on the edge of her seat and nodded, waiting for him to begin. He didn't, though. He just watched her and the darting of her eyes. So, Pip said, clearing her throat, what did you want to ask me about? Hawkins leaned forward in his chair, reaching for the tape recorder and the bones in his neck clicking. You understand that even though this is a voluntary and we just want you to help us with our inquiries, I still need to record our conversation. His eyes searched her face. Yes, she understood that. If they seriously considered she had something to do with it, she would have been arrested and read her Miranda rights. This was standard practice, but there was a strange look in his eyes, like he wanted her to be afraid. She wasn't. She was in charge here. She nodded. Hawkins pressed the button. This is Detective Hawkins interviewing Pippa Fitz and Bowie. The time is 11:31 a.m. on Tuesday, the 25th of August. This is a voluntary interview in relation to our inquiry into the death of Jason Bell, and you can leave at any time. Do you understand? Yes, Pip said, directing her voice toward the recording device. Hawkins sat back in his chair, creaking. So, he said, I heard the trailer for your new season of your podcast, and as did hundreds of thousands of other people. Pip shrugged. I thought you could use some help on this case, considering you needed me to solve 2 of your previous cases for you. Is that why you asked for a chat today? Need my help? Want me to give an exclusive for the podcast? No, Pip. The air whistled through his teeth. I don't need your help. This is an active investigation, a homicide. You know you cannot be interviewing and posting important information online. That's not how justice works. The journalistic standards apply to you too. One might even see this as contempt. I haven't posted any important information yet. It was just a trailer, she said. I don't know any details of the case yet other than what you have said in the press conference. You released an interview with Hawkins glanced down at his notes. Jackie Miller, speculating about who might have killed Jason Bell, he said, widening his eyes, though he'd scored a point against her. Not the whole interview, Pip said, just the most interesting clips, and I did not name the person we spoke about. I know that might be prejudice and any potential future trial. I do know what I'm doing. I'd say the content made it pretty obvious who you were talking about, Hawkins said, reaching down for the box of files beside him. He retightened himself, a small pile of papers clutched in one hand. After I heard your trailer, I spoke to Jackie myself as part of our inquiries. He shook the pages at her, and Pip recognized an interview transcript. He placed a transcript down on the metal table, flicked through it. I think there was a certain amount of bad blood between Max Hastings and Jason Bell, he read aloud. You hear these things around town, especially when you own a cafe on Main Street. Jason must have hated Max for a while for what he did to Becca, and how it was connected to Andy dying. Certainly seemed like Max didn't like Jason either. A lot of anger there. It was pretty violent. I never had a situation like that between 2 customers, and as Pip said, it isn't concerning that this was just 2 weeks before Jason Bell was murdered. Hawkins finished reading, closed the transcript, and looked up at Pip. I would say it's fairly standard first step in an investigation, Pip said, not dropping his eyes. She wouldn't be the first to look away. Finding out if anything unusual happened recently in the victim's life, identifying anyone who had any ill toward him, potential persons of interest, a violent incident leading up to his murder, intertwining a witness. Sorry if I beat you to it. Max Hastings, Hawkins said, his tongue hissing 3 times as it tripped over his name. Seemed like he's not very popular in town, Pip said. Has a lot of enemies, and apparently Jason Bell was one of them. A lot of enemies? Hawkins repeated her words, hardening his gaze. Would you call yourself one of his enemies? I mean, Pip stretched out her face. He's a serial rapist who walked free, hurt some of the people I care about most. Yes, I hate him, but I don't know if I have the honor of being his worst enemy. He's suing you, isn't he? Hawkins picked up a pen, tapped it against his teeth. For defamation for a statement in an audio clip that you posted to social media the day the verdict was read in his sexual assault trial. Yes, he was going to, Pip replied. As I said, great guy. We're actually settling out of court, though. Interesting, Hawkins said. Is it? Well, he clicked the pen in his hand, in and out, and Pip heard was DT, DT, DT. From what I know of your character, Pip, from our handful of interactions, I'd say I'm surprised you've decided to settle to pay up. You strike me as the type who would fight for every end. Normally I am, Pip nodded, but see, I think I've lost my trust in the courts, in the justice system, criminal or civil. I'm tired. Want to put it all behind me, start fresh at college. So when was it you came to the decision to settle? Recently, Pip said, weekend before last. Hawkins nodded to himself, pulling another piece of paper from a file out of the top of the box. I spoke to Christopher Ebseth, the attorney representing Max Hastings in the defamation matter, and he told me that you called him at 9:45 p.m. on Saturday, the 15th of August. He said that's when you told him you wanted to accept a deal he offered you a few weeks prior. Pip nodded. Strange time to call him, don't you think, that late on a Saturday evening? Not really, she said. He told me to call him anytime. I'd been thinking about it all day and finally made the decision. I didn't see a reason to delay any further. For all I knew, he was going to file the lawsuit first thing Monday morning. Hawkins nodded along with her words, making a note on the page that Pip couldn't read upside down. Why are you asking me about a conversation I had with Max Hastings' lawyer? She asked, wrinkling her eyes in confusion. Does this mean you have started looking into Max as a person of interest? Hawkins didn't say anything, but Pip didn't need him to. She knew. Hawkins wouldn't know about Pip's call with Epps if he didn't first know about how Epps called to Max just a few minutes later, and the only way he would know about that if he was already looking into Max's telephone records. He probably hadn't even needed a warrant. Max probably gave up his phone voluntarily on Epps's advice, thinking that he had nothing to hide. Hawkins could already place Max at the scene at the time Epps had called him, and later calls from his mom and dad. Surely that were probable cause to get a search warrant in Max's house, his car, to take samples of his DNA to test against those that were found at the scene. Unless this time Max was there didn't match Jason's time of death, the last unknown. Pip tried to not let it cloud her face, staring ahead at Hawkins, a hint of interest in her narrowed eyes, but not too much. How well did you know Jason Bell? Hawkins asked, folding his arms across his chest. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to leave it off right there, and I'll do a part 2 to this video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.